Hello guys, and welcome back to this new video. Today we are going to talk about Leonardo da Vinci with facts there are unknown. So don't miss out this episode. We'll start immediately. Theory number 1. Maybe he wasn't Italian. Now that looks a bit ridiculous, but hear me out. So there is a chance that Leonardo da Vinci was not Italian. Why do we say that? Because his mother, Caterina, is the name of his mother, Caterina, has the name of former slaves. And also some fingerprints that have been traced and analyzed show a strong analogy with a Middle Eastern type. So, there is a chance, but also I'd like to understand something here. Who haven't did this research, right? I mean, we had Marco Polo, so it is possible that there were forms of communication and people were moving and there were ancient genes. I don't know, like right now, if I take a DNA test, probably it's gonna show up that I come from many different parts, but I was born and raised kind of in the same place, more or less. That it's a different story. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't Italian. Okay. Point number 2. He was a genius, everybody knows that, but he was also one of the first people that understood that fossils are not forms to which God didn't give life, but they're actually remains. Very ancient remains of vegetables or just animals and plants that have been petrified. At the time, they were called in Italian Niki, and apparently, people believed that there were remains of the Great Flood described in the Bible, which maybe the time was the same, but not exactly for the same reason, meaning it wasn't God that decided you're not gonna have life. Anyway, moving on. Point number 3. He exposed fortune tellers, saying if you do analyze the palms of people that have died the same day or around the same time, you'll see that their lifelines are completely different. Therefore, there is no such a thing as a fortune teller. Now, on that part, I might disagree. I mean, most of fortune tellers, unfortunately, are scammers, but some might have some skill, might have some quality. I don't know. You could comment below. Point number 4. The heart. He was the first, or among the first, to understand, or among the first people to understand that the heart doesn't have simply the function of warming up the blood, but it has a more proper function, that of a pump that pushes the blood out in the entire body, without which we wouldn't survive. So, very important. Also, there were things he totally got wrong. Totally got wrong. I mean, we know that at the time it was not common, but it was starting to become common, the dissection of bodies, right? Now, that was mostly to study the anatomy of a body, right? However, Leonardo da Vinci thought that in the head we have 3 ventricles, which we did not have. So that was totally wrong. But we can forgive him, I think, just he knew like a quarter of what we know nowadays in terms of science, yet he knew way more than I do. Anyway, alright, that's depressing, but let's move on. So, number 4. Number 4 and 5. Number 6 then. Number 6 then is that he was the one to bring to France the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa, though the army under Napoleon stole many paintings, Mona Lisa was brought to France by Leonardo himself. Reason why is that he wanted to get paid. Francis I paid him to years of salary, meaning basically 4,000 gold scudi. That was at the time the coin for the Mona Lisa. Number 7. He was vegetarian. Okay, so basically we know from Corsalidis that he was a vegetarian, that he would eat no food that contained blood. Especially he would go to the markets trying to free birds. Do you imagine Leonardo going to the markets, you know, let's liberate the birds. Let's liberate the birds. I don't know. Anyway, point number 8. He had some sort of love or at least interest in what was grotesque. There's a painting that portrays gypsies with an irregular nose shape, so we do know that. We do know that he had some interest in portraying, designing bizarre or grotesque or caricatures, or you know, anything that was like abnormal, as in outside of the standard. Point number 9. He loved everything that was like a new technique, right? So he experimented a lot and tried a lot of different ways of painting, right? So if we pick the Last Supper, the way we know the Last Supper is because it has been restored by experts. Because at his time, while he was still alive, the Black Supper had become basically a pool of colors where you could not distinguish the pictures. That is because of humidity and because of the technique that he used, that was al fresco, that basically would allow him to touch on, you know, once the main painting had been laid down on the canvas. Point number 10. Homosexuality. So about his homosexuality, many people, among which Freud, have talked about. And Freud analyzed the dream, the recurrent dream that Leonardo had, at least as a child, where the kite would kiss his lips. But there was also other research that have brought about how there was a guy named Jacopo Sartorelli, and he accused Leonardo of abuse. However, the guy had a trial, or some like short version of a trial, and Leonardo was put in jail for a little bit and then released because there was no proof. And I don't know what we would think about that today, considering that today, you know, the fact that somebody said that he or she has been molested, arrested, is already proof. Maybe not enough to sentence somebody, but it is a proof and deserves credit. And then point number 11, the writing. So he loved writing from right to left, not from left to right. And apparently that was considered the devil's form of writing, but that could easily be explained by the fact that he was a left-handed, non-corrected, because we know that in countries like Italy, there was up until the 90s, which was when I was born, up until the 90s, and depending on the area, but that was correction of left-handed people, right? Which means that they would tie your arm around your back so that you could write with the other hand. Now, he could write with the other hand, however, it was much more difficult. Whereas, you know, the easiest way for a left-handed person to write is basically to write the opposite direction. And so, rather than from left to right, from right to left. He also was very well known for mirror writing, so that is also interesting, right? How he might have developed mirror writing just because he was a left-handed person. Anyway, point number 12. Point number 12 is that Leonardo discovered that the rings that we see in the trunk of a tree, can tell us the age of a tree. So in other words, it's that discovery that is the foundation of dendroclimatology, right? Through which we can determine the age of a tree. And then point number 13 was the so-called Codex Romanov that turned out to be just like somebody creating an ox, because it's really the invention of Jonathan Ralph that wrote a book based on non-facts, so a fictional book where Leonardo and Botticelli, which by the way didn't even live in the same time, they were close in time but didn't really live in the same time, where Leonardo and Botticelli had a restaurant, right? And so the Codex Romanov would have the list of the dishes served at this restaurant, which never happened. And then last point is that when he introduced himself to Ludovico il Moro, meaning the lord of the area around Milan, Leonardo showed up with a CV, like with a very good CV, so we kind of like owe to him that too, where he had like all the tools, all the equipment that he could build as a military engineer to favor the expansionistic aims of Ludovico il Moro. Found that interesting because at the beginning, knowing Ludovico il Moro, or at least knowing that he wanted to expand his territory, Leonardo came up with this CV and said, look, I could do this, this and this for you. I could build, you know, the bridges, I could build this tool which will allow you to do such and such, right? And then at the bottom of the CV, he started writing, you know, the things that it could have been built in times of peace. We know that Ludovico il Moro never actually used any of Leonardo's inventions, but anyway, he was still the great genius that he was. Now, guys, with that being said, there was much more, including also the fact that he was apparently telling bad jokes and sexual jokes. But anyway, there is for sure much more to say about Leonardo, but for now, we stop here. So, let me know what you guys think. What was the fact that you didn't know and which ones you did know? Comment below. Don't forget to do that. In the meanwhile, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have enjoyed this video or any of the other videos, and we'll talk some more next time. Don't also forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll talk next time. Bye!